911, what is your emergency? I hear shots! Okay, ma'am, calm down. What kind of shots?
I thought that was smoke, and I was like, "Fuck! What the fuck did you do?"
Me? That would have been you.
No, that's your area. My fish is over by the.
That would have been your area.
That was you. No, that was your area. That was my area. If the smoke was over there, I'd be like, "Oh fuck! What did I do?" The smoke is your area. Something. What the fuck did you do?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Large Lads, episode 25. We're back. I went on a short vacation.
Yep.
And now it's time to get back into it.
Max did his pilgrimage to the homeland.
I did, yeah. Washington.
yeah. The old foray back to Seattle.
Yep.
You know my new bit around here?
Okay.
I've been having way too much fun. We live in Montana. People in Montana hate Washington almost as much as they hate California. So having a ton of Seattle pride has been my new gimmick. Because, like, you mentioned from Seattle, you're like, oh, yeah, I see why you moved here, right? I'm like, no, it's way cooler there.
It's awesome.
I love Seattle. And they're like, there's like, what about all the crackheads? I was like, dude, I love those guys.
It is very...
They're so funny. Yeah, I love when they shopping cart in front of your car when you're getting on the highway. It's really funny. Well, it's like, I remember, like, that's not why I left. Because, like, I feel like if you grow up right next to downtown Seattle like we did, you just develop the skills of, like, don't make eye contact, walk around them, and you could live a pretty peaceful life if you've got the, like, crackhead coping skills. Kirsten's probably, she shut up from here and was like, hello. They, like, lock on to you.
I remember in high school, we had, like, someone who's formerly homeless come and speak to the school. Mm-hmm. And they're like, one of the worst parts of it was, like, feeling invisible and that no one would look at me. And then I remember one of the kids in my class got beat up by a homeless dude because he, like, fucking bothered the guy.
Yeah, there's a reason you don't look at them. Like, with peace and love, a bunch of them, if you make eye contact, they fucking start swarming you.
I met some chill ones,
Well, especially at our school. Our school had a bunch of kids near downtown Seattle again, but they were commuting from a ways away. So they were living in very nice areas that didn't have the crackheads. And they're like, God, it's so gross that nobody even talks to them. And then by the end of senior year, they weren't fucking talking to them. Yeah, speaking of having someone come in speeches, I don't think I've told this story on Large Lads. I told you this a while ago. We had the funniest shit happen my, like, junior or senior year of college.
Okay.
I have an exercise science major. Who fucking cares? They wanted to have people come in. And pretty good, because a lot of the time they just fucking shuttle you through, and then everybody's like, what do you even do with this major at the end? Yep. Unless you're going to PT or OT, where, yes, you've got good earning potential, you have to do your post-grad, but it's kind of what you do, unless you want to, like, open a gym, maybe, but then you probably should have just got a business major.
Yep.
For the most part, it's go PT, OT, or some kind of continued ed. It's just one of those majors.
Yep.
Cool, they had, like, some people come in to tell us, like, things we could do. We had a dude. They were like, they wanted to, like, I think by this point you were living with me. So I might have come home and told you about this.
Maybe it would be funny to tell that story.
What about you living in my closet? Let me finish my story, brother. So they had, like, people come in, like, some physical therapists came in, occupational therapists, be like, oh, it's really gratifying to help people with their pain or help them function in their day-to-day life. Like, this person who lost their arm, we just, like, help them do, like, these basic things in their life. It's all, like, everybody's like, oh, that's really interesting. That's kind of what I wanted to do. They had a fucking, like, shaman come in. And he went off the rails. He's like, science is retarded. I think he said retarded. Just completely off the rails. It's like, all of you are learning bullshit. You need to get into Eastern medicine and holistic health if you ever want to actually help someone. Blah, 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 something. People, like, thinks your kidneys do something, but it's really your chakras. And it was really funny because of all of the teachers in the department were, like, off to the side of the room. watching this, and you could see like which ones were like thought this was like they're like, oh shit, we fucked up. And then my nutrition teacher or professor, who is kind of a chiller, former bodybuilder, thought it was the funny. Like you could tell he was really enjoying how
It's so funny that they just didn't vet this dude at all.
No, they didn't vet it at all. And I wanted to know who was in charge of booking this dude. But yeah, he went on a rampage about like chakras. He said something about the fact that we don't learn acupuncture should be a crime.
It's so funny.
He's like,
everybody like, where do they find this dude?
He concluded with like, you guys should get out while you can and go start studying Eastern medicine. And then they like shoot him off the front of the room. That made my day. I was so bored by that point. Like
I honestly almost admire the courage to be that guy and be like, I'm gonna go into the belly of the beast and try and save these kids from this.
Me and my friends in the class were really having a good time. So I think he felt like he was getting a positive reception too. Yeah, go get him! Fuck exercise science, yeah!
Oh god damn it. I
just positive heckling, going, tell them, brother, this shit's fake. Kidneys don't work.
I knew it. Oh my god, that's so crazy. I cannot believe that they like.
That was such a wonderful time because it's like we had a really good exercise science program because where I went to college has a very good PT post-grad program. Mm-hmm. So we get good funding. We get to use their facilities. We've got a great exercise science lab. Tons of equipment. Our ex-phys labs. We had tons of cool stuff to use. Really, really well funded. Really good undergrad program, it varies a lot, right? It's like, you go to some schools and like kinesiology is the dumb people major when they're just trying to get through like playing football. And then you go to like ours, I would say it was a pretty rigorous program. Yeah. Like freaking half the people that wanted to do it had to drop. And of the people that made it through, most of them, or a lot of them, didn't manage to keep their GPA high enough for post-grad to be, like, I think you need to like 3.7, 3.8, I think is what they say. You want to hold through college to go to post-grad, but it like left you the people that did that would be very prepared to immediately turn around and go post-grad for like PT/OT, which basically all of my classmates that actually finished ended up doing, except for the ones that didn't get quite that threshold who went to chiropractic school. But yeah, so it's like, cool, really good program, tough. Everything was really smoothly run. There were some classes, like my biomechanics professor was like, it was like a legitimate researcher, but he was all about running gait. And that really bled into how he taught the class, where it was like we spent, 3/4 of the semester on like foot, ankle, and like hip mechanics, and then glossed over the entire shoulder joint in like a week, which was wicked. And I was like, you can't do this. I want to know about the shoulder.
This dude has like one special interest and he's just teaching the class all
it really,
that.
It really skewed heavily where like he like followed the curriculum, but also just like spent so long on anything that would relate to running. But like, overall, really good, really solid, had some really good professors. My neuromuscular class actually had things that were like relatively interesting and helpful, taught me how to like actually read research. Nutrition class, also really solid, really helpful. Kind of looked at like how to break down the research cited in meta-analysis, like kind of cool, right? Everything was like smooth except for this massive fuck up at the end. So that's why it like stood out as like a sick moment for me. I was like, this is so much better than I thought it was.
It is very funny because like I wouldn't say you're like, man, I'm really glad I went to college.
Hopefully Pops doesn't watch this. I don't think he does.
Do you think that you gained like anything positive in terms of lifting out of going to college?
I was talking to someone the other day, right? Colleges that offer like a CSCS alongside their degree. A CSCS is a certificate that you need to be in undergrad or have an undergraduate degree to get. It's like a certified strength and conditioning coach. To me, it means a little bit more than, I don't really care about certs. Billy, who runs our gym and PT clinic, doesn't really care about certs. But like lots of places and lots of people do like to see them. To me, the CSCS is a little bit better than like anything else. Our school didn't offer those, which was a bit of a shame. Although I could have done it myself because I had the undergraduate degree. I don't know if you really, like I was just telling someone the other day who messaged me, if you really wanted to try to go to school for something that's going to aid you in lifting, either get a degree in something that earns money, so that way you can properly finance. Like it's like that's pretty common for bodybuilders. Is you don't need to work in bodybuilding. You need to have a job that lets you finance your hobby, right? Or I think like maybe a nutrition major might be more applicable directly. Like there's things you could take away in terms of like learning like anatomy and physiology. Helpful, but not all that helpful on like a practical level. Like you have to take that and marry it with personal experience with like coaching and training for it. Like then, okay, cool. Yeah, having some basis understanding of like physiology, like neuromuscular, cool. Okay, we established on like the first fucking day that like EMG data does not extrapolate to hypertrophy outcomes. So you can't just say the best lat exercises based on EMG data, like was really popular on YouTube.
That's one that still gets around. It's just being like,
every now and then you just make a video and you're like, I just read a paper on EMG data. Science says this is the best pull down grip, and it's like it's probably a little bit more complicated than that. I'm trying to think. Like nutrition was kind of helpful, but it was nothing I couldn't have learned online. You know, it's like if you look at like the experts within our field, people that are really looked up to, a weird percentage of them don't have a formal education, right? Like just random people off the top of my head. I don't know if John Meadows ever went to. He had like a finance major. He worked at a bank, right? And he was considered an expert. Looked over stuff like More Plates, More Dates, as far as I know, is self-educated. A lot of like the famed fucking PED people out there don't have a formal education in pharmacology. They're very much self-taught. So it's like, yeah, the information, like it's like kind of a cliche, be like, college sucks, the information's out there. Yeah, but you can't count on people to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, unless you really know what you're looking at, I would probably want an employee to have a degree just to prove to me that they're not just claiming they know this stuff. If it's not my area of expertise, it's like kind of a guarantee, like a certified guarantee that like this person might do some of their work and they did learn this at some point, right? Whereas like, yeah, sure, there's probably someone who's more educated, self-taught, but you need to know enough of what you're looking at to vet them. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, if you are a unusually motivated person, I don't know if there's anything we covered in undergrad that I haven't also seen online for free. Even like post-grad type stuff, talking to Tim, talking to everybody that had like Billy, don't know if there's anything you couldn't find online behind like a pretty limited paywall. There really isn't a whole lot of that, but most people aren't like extraordinarily self-motivated to self-study. So it's almost like, okay, I'm going to pay this money to make me study. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of boring. I don't want to yap too much about like my thoughts on like how education ties into lifting. But I was talking to someone the other day where it's like, dude, get something that earns money and maybe a nutrition minor. If you wanted to like have a decent use of time. If your school has a really good program, like MSU, there was a guy who was a local powerlifter here, coached a lot of the people at our gym. I think he got third at nationals. He now has, I believe he's finishing his doctorate right now, and he teaches their strength and conditioning class. If you have a sick program like that, fuck yeah. Like, I guarantee that there's some kids at Prime training right now who are taking Justin's classes. And they're like, it's my favorite class. I've learned like so much. It's like, it varies from program to program. If you don't have a good program, you're not going to get what you want out of an exercise science major to make you better at lifting. Focus on your lifting. Get something that makes you money. And then maybe pick up like a nutrition undergrad. Maybe, you got some free classes. Maybe you could like get in. You can email professors and sit in on classes. You know what I mean? For like fucking free if you're already a student there. You'd be like, hey, I don't have the prereqs, but I will set aside the time. Justin, can I sit on your class? They'll probably like, yeah, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Dude. Like, unless the school cracks down on it. There's a lot, a lot of professors are just people that are passionate about the subject, and they'll be stoked that they're like, oh, you don't want a degree, you just want to know the information. That's cool and rare. I don't know. I'm not the person to ask about academics. I don't like academics all that much.
It's so funny to go on like a 5 minute.
I know. I should just put timestamps. We skip this. Guys, please skip that. I didn't organize that very well. I'm sure I'm going to watch that back and be like, oh, I forgot to say this. Whatever. It doesn't matter. That shit doesn't fucking work.
Education bad. You heard it here first on Lord's
Education's only good if it's like, if you're young and you're watching this and you do not look up the average graduating salary of people taking your major to at least know it, you're an idiot like me. You should at least know that. Like, school here, not the one I went to, they've got on their website, like, of alumni from this department, not just on average across the nation, across other departments. On average, if you get like a wildlife ecology type degree, the starting salary is this on average. And it's like, that better be an enticing number because you're incurring debt.
Yeah.
You know, even if your parents are paying for it, that's still real money. You know, it should have some kind of payout, especially if it's not something you're ultra passionate about learning for the sake of learning, like our aunt who has a bajillion degrees. But it's like,
that is a weird little fun fact.
Our aunt speaks like 5 languages.
Yeah, she's a polyglot and
has a PhD and doesn't use any of them to run a cheese farm like a fucking Chad.
Yeah, just went to, was it Yale or Harvard?
I think she was Harvard. Yale? I don't know. Dude, don't ask me.
She went to some Ivy League for like 18 years, graduated, and then was like, all right, cool, education done. I'm gonna go run a cheese farm.
Yeah,
so she herds goats now.
What a Chad.
They're by far the coolest member of our family.
Award-winning cheese farmer, too. Award-winning. But yeah, no, she's a Chad. Aside from that, yeah, I don't know. You should be at least familiar with the earning potential. Presumably, you're going to college for the increased job prospect. You know, if you're someone who's like, I go to college for the sake of learning, that used to be more viable when it didn't cost $1 bajillion. Yeah. Like, that was like something you could do when college costs like fucking 2 nickels.
Yeah, not 600,000.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, cool. I will go learn for the sake of learning on the weekends, and I'll cover it with my wage.
Yeah.
Don't incur debt for learning for the sake of learning, potentially. You should also have some plan for earning potential. Check the outcomes.
Or just drive pizzas and lift weights.
Yeah!
Driving pizzas, pretty chill job. Only problem, hours.
Yeah.
I can't give any thoughts on education, but I can give thoughts on jobs that I've personally worked.
So, Max, do you think your high school education helped you with your lifting?
You know, I liked when I wasn't doing homework and was basically lifting weights full time. That was really cool. I feel like that was productive, that I had 4 years where I would just lift weights and then eat food and go to sleep.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm glad they passed me.
That's badass. Is this when because you were still in high school when you were living in our closet, right?
Yeah. So,
good times.
Basically, COVID happened, and some living circumstances were not optimal. So I was like, brother, please let me move into your closet. And Sam, who had a girlfriend at the time living with him, Kirsten, shout out.
It's Kirsten. Hold on.
Yeah,
it's Kirsten.
That's so
before Kirsten whoops my ass, it's Kirsten.
Kirsten thinks it's someone else. Said it multiple times. Sam, major homie move, was like, of course, brother, come live in my closet.
Yeah, and then we put a gym together in our backyard. It was fucking, those were the good times.
Yeah, so it was me at like 17, just like eating and lifting weights all day, every day, and I would do Zoom classes for like 15 minutes a day. A bunch of my teachers just emailed me like, hey, I don't feel like doing online. You get an A. So my GPA, senior year, really good.
Dude, fucking academic. School did help you.
Yeah, I think I like a 3.9 my senior year. So many classes were just like, you get auto.
That was your payback for being robbed of your final throwing season.
Oh my god, yeah, that was a bummer. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, I was just living in a closet and lifting weights. Pretty cool.
You know what always cracks me up? I don't remember who it was, but there was some very strong lifter I follow on Instagram who was like, I do remember who it is, but I'm not going to say. Who was just like, I have terrible genetics. And it's like an elite lifter. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? You're making us all look bad with this claim. It's like, sure, maybe you have identified that you have the worst genetics of all of the elite performers.
Yeah.
To say that you're an idiot, you're looking at a crazy sample. You're like, well, yeah, like Halfthor is much more gifted than me. I have bad genetics and I've outworked them. And it's like, dude, you're still 99th percentile. Granted, you are seeing, compared to these other guys who are 99.99, you got the worst of the bunch. But it's like, if you can't identify that you still have massive advantages over the average the person is quite big. Like their frame is very big, and like that alone, like
it's very funny. I feel like people.
It's one of those dudes that's like, yeah, I graduated high school at like 280. What do you mean?
I feel like people are like often like on the internet will like categorize genetics as like bad, good freak. And you're like, well, I don't have freak genetics.
Oh, it must be bad.
I'm at bad for sure.
Well, it's also like everybody has like strength. I was telling Kirsten, it's interesting because there's like people with like different strengths and weaknesses, right? Like we have been fortunate enough to be around some people with like just wicked ability, you know, and maybe not the like staying power that's necessary for a really long endeavor, like getting really, really strong.
Yeah.
But the ability is there in droves. And then you get some guys who like they've got everything, but they don't have the durability. And it's like that is a kind of genetics.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, like they've got everything. They gain muscle easy. They've got a huge frame, you know, like to fill out, you know, they've got really good like kind of neural efficiency right out of the gate, right? Even when they were skinny, they were lifting big weights. Like I always say that's one of my signs of promise in a young lifter is if they're pretty strong while like significantly under muscled.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if you take the long route of filling out your frame, the sky's the limit. You know
just
what I mean?
imagine if the size of your muscle bellies was 3 times larger because you're currently 145 soaking wet.
I know, and the fact that you're strong like that, like, yeah, maybe you don't have the easiest time gaining muscle compared to your peers, but every gram of muscle you put on is going to show in your lifts.
Yeah.
If you're someone who's strong while under muscled, right? And then you get guys who gain muscle easy but aren't that neurally efficient. Like, you're like, man, you're so jacked. How are you not stronger?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you can skew your training to fill in those gaps. If you identify, you're like, I'm a guy who gains muscle, like pretty easy compared to like my friends, but some of my friends are stronger than me. Okay, well maybe your training is gonna like fatigue management in mind. Your training is gonna skew a little bit heavier, right? Like neural adaptation is gonna be more of an outcome. Maybe you do use a little bit of overload work, right? Maybe we go higher frequency, higher intensity, but lower volume because we don't need to necessarily prompt as much muscle growth because that's kind of happening no matter what you do. Or like vice versa, right? I always felt, right, you know, it's not lost on me, people are going to be annoyed hearing this, right? But I always felt that the muscle gain part came a little harder to me. Not compared to everybody, but compared to other people my strength level. Like looking around, like going to strongman contests, the other people that are as strong as me are bigger than me, right? I did have that like really good like neural efficiency right out of the gate. I was strong while skinny, you know? And so my training skewed really heavily into a ton of the year is a ton of bodybuilding work.
Yeah.
Because every bit I can get bigger, it immediately shows. There's no like potentiation phase necessary. I just get stronger if I get bigger, which isn't the case for other people, right? And it's like, I've got some clients where they do like a 4-week waving structure so they can stay lifting heavy because they get big so easy. We need to just manage fatigue and get them touching heavy, managing joint fatigue, managing kind of global fatigue, but to like attack their weakness, right? And it's like, yeah, I am 260 at 5'10", which is pretty large, but that's also potentiated, like that's with the context of a not so natty 12 years of bulking.
Yeah.
I think there are other people under the same circumstances that would be significantly larger than me. And it's also my curse is the fact that my arms are tiny. And my shoulders are narrow, but my legs are really big.
Yeah, it is very weird. I remember like your legs got big so much earlier.
Dude, the second I started lifting weights, my legs got big, and then I also was conditioned to be like, man, if you wear shorts that you can see your knees, that's gay. So then I just had my hidden giant legs at all times.
Yeah, it was really weird because it's like, I remember when you were like 190, you looked so much smaller because like half of your body weight is just your quads.
Well, I think at every weight, right? Part of that's like a density type factor. Part of that's muscle being in the legs. Legs tend to be heavy. Like James Hollingshead and Antoine Vaillant, Antoine, however you say his name, both bodybuilders, very heavy stage weight guys. They look like 270 on stage, which is really big. Both of their main critique from the judges is that they're too small. So it's like, how are they so heavy, but it's because both of them have really, really thick legs. So it's like, that makes you really disproportionately heavy. It's just kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the guys who have like wicked heavy stage weights, they're also the guys with monster legs. Like Ramy could be so heavy because legs are heavy. If you have developed legs, you don't look like you weigh as much as you weigh because people look at your upper body and also just being dense. But when I weighed 200, I looked like I weighed 180. When I weighed 220, I looked like I maybe weighed 200. Even now, like people usually guess my weight wrong. I think I look closer to weighing what I weigh. But historically, every time, it really hurt my feelings too. Because I'm doing so much bodybuilding training, I want to be big. And everybody's like, what do you weigh? Whatever I weigh minus 20.
Yeah.
Fuck, 20 pounds heavier than that. And like, you could see some people like doubted it. And I was like, I'm sorry I'm dense, dude.
I've gotten so much lower a couple times. Like, not even close to what I actually weigh.
Well, that's good though.
Yeah.
That's good. If someone's like, if you look at you, they're like, yeah, 370.
Yeah, you're about, God, I bet I'm going to be 400 pounds.
Exactly, yeah, fuck.
I mean, I'd probably be like, I'm a pretty good build 400 pounds.
Yeah, I'm a pretty sturdy 400.
I mean, I'd actually be the leanest 400 pound man.
What do you think the heaviest you'll weigh is?
That's a good question.
Like career peak, obviously, and we're going to do it the right way, right? Which is, if you're going to be a super heavyweight, you're lighter in the off season, and you get heavier into the contest. So only be really heavy when you need to be heavy, not like the guys who just eat like fat guys year round and are actually heavier in the off season and get lighter during a meet prep because they're training more. Don't do that. We'll stay like like the Milanichev like drop down to like, I don't think you'll go down to 265 like Milanichev did in the off season, but that'll be the plan. What do you think the heaviest weight you'll touch?
So, I think that one, I'm really attached to my deadlift, and I think that'll partially like
cap the weight.
Yeah, because I do really.
What if you could just be like Benny and it just doesn't matter?
I hope so. That's kind of the plan. I'm making some like stance and grip adjustments that I think will be beneficial as I put on more mass.
Let's go.
I think I've kind of made the mistake of like pushing my technique until it starts not working as I've
until you outgrow it. I mean, that's how it goes, though. Like, if you try to anticipate changes, a lot of the time you just end up with like ditzing around with it too much, and that gets in the way. So it's like, I kind of get only making changes when you have to.
I'm coming up on putting about 200 pounds on since I started lifting weights, which is a wild thing to say.
That's sick.
Because I started at like 145 and I'm like 335 right now, so I'm almost to official 200 pounds body weight gain.
That is so misleading too. You're like, I was a hard gainer. He was 11.
I also was training 6 days a week.
Aforementioned 145 max was 11,
and also 6 feet tall. So it's so funny. I reached how tall I got so young, and I was convinced. I was like, I'm gonna be 6'6".
Dude, the same thing happened to me. I like hit 5'10" in like 6th grade. The doctor was a dickhead and told me I'd be like 6'3". Because he just like projected the growth forward. Yeah, didn't grow an inch since.
That's so funny. Yeah, I remember. God, it was like. I think it was like 6th or 7th grade. There was like one summer I put on like almost the entire. Like I went from like 5'1" to 6'3".
I remember that.
All of my joints hurt like all the time.
I remember that. You were just like, my knees.
It was like real problems that I couldn't squat. It was really helpful or discouraging for me squatting because I was just like, well, my knees really hurt, so I just won't do that.
Speaking of growth spurts, dude, Bubba is the champ. Jerry Pritchett's son, Bubba Pritchett. Me and Max have been following Bubba since he was like 9, and has just been like. He was like dabbling in strongman training with his dad. Bubba's tossing up 225 on the axle for reps at 13. What a fucking unit. And he also, like, if you zoom out and you don't have any context, he just looks like kind of like a normal child. Yeah. And he's like fucking 6'2" or something. Yeah. What the fuck? God, Bubba is fucking gonna be the 10-time world's strongest man if he keeps going at the rate he hits right now. Holy fuck!
I'm praying for it. But I remember it was like 7th grade. I was like 6 feet. And I remember I was like the tallest kid in my class, and I got way less fat because I stayed basically the exact same body weight and grew like a foot.
You went from a short, wide child to a tall, skinny child like in like a month.
And it was like that was when I was peak Giga Chad. Yeah, that was really the peak of my. I peaked in middle school. Yeah, I don't know. I have a strong hunch that at some point I'll over push my body weight and hit 390.
Really?
Yeah, I think
that's a big boy. Holy fuck! That's a big boy.
I don't know. I think I'm still like just like realistically, it's just like. You press the button that keeps working, and so it's like I think every single meet prep, it's like I'll push an extra couple pounds on, and then like one of them will be like, that was too much.
Yeah, I think it's also I think when you have straps, you can take your deadlift leverages a little further and still get into a good position. Yeah. Whereas mixed grip, I think it's like you have to get slightly further down. There's blah blah blah. I think that like. when your leverages go full south mixed grip is slightly lighter than what you could get away with in straps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like if you were doing strongman, I could see a world in which your deadlift is pretty solid still at 390.
Yeah.
Powerlifting, fuck no.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm just like, oh shit, my pull regressed. I don't like that at all. 375.
How much would your squat have to go up for you to accept the L on your deadlift regressing?
Twice as much.
Okay. So 16, but if you did squat 1600,
I don't even double what I currently squat. I bet like for every like 30 pounds I lose off my deadlift, I need to gain 60.
That could happen though.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I could see just like, fuck, deadlift backslid 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Squats up 30
even
plus
that.
to the total.
I was lying. It has to be 3 times.
It has to be 3 times.
Yeah.
It has to be plus 45 for minus 15.
For it to be really worth it. That's not true.
Spoken like a true deadlifter.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a very like obvious thing that I would be like,
You're just coping and seething because you're about to out squat your deadlift.
Oh, it's so close. It's so annoying. I also feel like I've not been I don't think I've done a hard deadlift in like a year. I've not even been close to missing anything in so long. I've just been tweaking stuff.
I was telling Max earlier, I don't know who it is, somebody at our gym has been going to war on behalf of Max and telling everybody that he's stronger than me.
Thank you.
Which you might well be, you know what I mean? It depends on what we're defining as strength. If we just like had random tasks, I think I'm whooping your ass.
Debatable.
If we did a powerlifting meet, I think I'd probably lose.
On a stiff bar specifically.
So I'm thinking this is one of two things. This is either someone who knows nothing about lifting at all.
Okay.
Just like who follows most stuff on Instagram.
Yep.
Or alternatively, it is like a real, it's a USAPL.
A powerlifter's powerlifter.
It is a USAPL boy. And it's like if you can out total someone, you are stronger than them.
Yeah, it is like, I'm going to be honest, I have no real, like, I'm not stronger than you yet, and I'm like pretty dead set on that.
Cheeky yet.
If I was pulling comfortably, I would be a little bit more rambunctious with being like, oh, pretty close. Until I can put together a fucking couple good deadlift walks. The fact that it's like both of us do a 635 deadlift AMRAP and you're doing 2+ times the amount of reps as me, I'm not gonna call myself stronger than you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you just get good at what you train for. You know what I mean?
I'm also so delusionally, like, I'm just like, the minute I'm healthy, I'm gonna catch you on deadlifts. I'm gonna beat you to 880.
Alright, let's see, give me 7 weeks. I'll pull 880.
Oh yeah, someone asked for training updates from me and you, so we'll do those quickly.
Yeah, that'll be our wrap up. How's your training going, brother?
I'm going first.
Yeah.
We just finished a block. I squatted 800. I benched 510, and I couldn't deadlift heavy. So fuck me. So game plan is we have like a pretty solid game plan on like to get my deadlift back to normal.
Yep.
It's just
it's going good too.
We kind of rushed it a little too much. It was just like we had like an arbitrary like we're gonna give us a little bit of extra time, and I think if it was a little bit longer, we would have been in a lot better of a position. But it was also like my squat and deadlift my squat and bench were going very well, and it feels insane to like completely prevent us from progressing those or peaking those two because of my deadlift. I think the better call probably would have been to just not peak my deadlift at that time. But
for
also,
sure, yeah, we should have kept it in the base building phase for the rest of that training cycle.
Yeah.
Wow. Like obviously we would back it off so you're not sore.
Yeah.
But keep it in a base phase until we peaked out the squat. But we jumped the gun a little bit.
I think that's just what you gotta do sometimes. Is like
that was dumb. Usually I'm like, like the athlete that wants to push is the athlete that succeeds. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to someone at the gym and they were saying like, yeah, my coach would always rather I undershoot than overshoot. But it's like this person's a chronic undershooter in general.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I would rather you want to overshoot. You know what I mean? Like that's just observationally, that's the psychology of the athletes that tend to get better, and then the coach has to pull them back.
Yeah, I think like, it's better to undershoot is a good mentality to have if you're a chronic overshooter.
Or once you're strong.
Yeah.
Err on the side of like once a single set presents a very different level of stimulus, sure, err on the side of undershooting. If you're weak and singular sets don't present a large stimulus, you kind of gotta be chomping at the bit because they're less fatiguing, so there's less cost to overshooting. And as long as you warm up well, you're hydrated, you're on top of your variables, the risk of injury, big injury, is pretty goddamn low.
Yeah,
you should be chomping at the
bit.
Like
your set of 8 at RPE 8. Doing it like at 6 is probably going to greatly diminish the positive effects. Doing it at 9.5 is probably just more productive. Like
as long as your form stayed pretty crispy, like you have an extra rep now and then. I promise you're not gonna be buried in fatigue from overshooting your bench press.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like if you chronically overshoot to where you're just drilling horrendous tech, that's a problem in itself. But the problem isn't the overshoot. The problem is your horrendous tech not carrying over to maximal weights. You know, especially bench press. I told my lab guys will like apologize. They're like, dude, I'm sorry. I hit it was RPE 9 instead of RPE 7. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Your form stayed good. I don't really care. Like the systemic fatigue in a bench press is pretty.
You're not gonna. Your next training day is gonna be completely ruined.
I don't think you'll be able to notice your next training session the fact that you overshot one of your straight sets, dude. I promise you don't need to apologize.
So squat went gas. Squat 800 pounds.
Phenomenal. Great form progress. Really cleaned up some of the things that we were kind of hoping went away in your squat, but maybe weren't as proactive as we should have been.
They just did.
In fixing that. Well, no, it's because you started working on them, but they went away. Really good, fucking crispy. Got some locked in assistance work. Beautiful squatting.
It's so funny.
We're in a good position to do it again.
I felt so technically locked in, and I'm now like 2-3 weeks in my new block, and it feels like I don't know.
I know, it's always a reset. When you start dropping back into volume, it's just like fucking straight set volume. I feel like every rep feels different. The video looks fine, but I'm like, this is shit. I don't know how to fucking lift.
I think if I showed you it, you'd be like, that's really like solid.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I do that same thing, except for my deadlift, where it does look like shit when I do a bunch of straight set volume. Like rep 8 and rep 1 don't look the same.
Yeah, it looks like I'm just like putting it on top of, or it feels like I'm just like putting it on top of my shoulder joint. I have no back tightness, and I'm just like awkwardly sitting down and getting folded, and then on the video it looks completely fine.
Looks nice.
So squat, just gonna do that again, hopefully.
Yeah, good.
Bench, I think we're just gonna do that again.
I tried to get Max to do a bench only meet, but he ended up bitching out of it. His bench only is lame, but it's better than doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to do a powerlifting meet, to be honest.
I understand that, but it's also like, it's just like something to do in the meantime. Update your bench number because it's fucking atrocious right now.
I'm also like, I'm just not that jazzed to update my bench only. Like, I just feel like
you don't have to be jazzed, just do it.
That's fair.
I don't know. It's just like if I saw an athlete, right, who's just like keeping busy, right? Like I just we'll go non-strength sport. Just like MMA fighters in the off season, and I see they take a grappling match.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're not jazzed for a Brazilian jiu-jitsu match. You know what I mean? Fair. Like it's not like they would rather be fighting in the UFC, but it's a good sign.
I guess mine isn't like I'd rather be like fighting in the UFC because I'm incapable of it right now. Like I'm incapable of doing a heavy deadlift in a meet right now. I'm just like I'd rather be building.
But you are building your bench press alongside. It's not like you're backing off your other lifts. It's like just like if that person was like, yeah, but I want to be working my striking. Keep doing your striking practices. Just stay busy. You know what I mean? Like there's not a significant risk of injury. Like to me, I would always think that's a good sign, right? Like just kind of keeping on the radar, plus it gets to show up in your open powerlifting as a non-super sad bench press. I don't know.
Depending on how it goes.
I digress. Clearly, I thought of this at like 2 a.m. and I was like, I should make Max do this. And I was like, this is such a good idea. And you're like, I think it's gay. I was like, God damn it.
Okay. I don't know.
That is what happened. I laid out a whole thing about why I thought it was a good idea, and you're like, I'd rather just do a full meet, but I'm also not doing a full meet.
Well, okay. I'm trying to bench 545. What can I say?
I don't remember that.
What?
I remember 545.
Brutal. Bench, just do that again.
Yep.
With a major emphasis on pausing longer and keeping my elbows better.
Yep.
I don't like publicly disclosing that because
your soft elbows. You don't want the judges to watch large lads. And
I swear to God,
what's that? Max has habitually soft elbows in his bench press.
If you never warn a judge about something you're trying to get away with.
But hey, if you're handling your boy, you have a client. Never yell at them about a cue that correlates to a red light because the judges will then just start watching it.
Like if you're like, keep your heels down, you're getting reds.
They're gonna fuck you up. It's like, make sure your feet stay still. They're gonna fucking lock in on the lifter's feet. Whisper that to them before they go out. It actually makes a difference. Or like, Max, make sure you dunk this one. I'm like, what? And I think then they're more critical of it too.
Yeah,
or just like whatever it is, they're like, don't ramp it. Don't fucking say that.
Especially if you just ramp it.
People get away with borderline ramps all the time.
Yeah.
Don't bring attention to if your lifter is gonna be verging on rebending their knees.
So I sometimes have cheese and soft elbows, and it's gotten a lot better. But also, it would still like potentially present a problem in like a competition with decent judging.
Yeah, like at nationals would be a problem.
Yeah. So I have to work on that, and I've been gym benching for a while. Part of the reason meat would be good.
Yes.
So you know, I think my pauses could be more honest in terms of
slightly
standards.
crispier.
I've always been like, I can pause very well, like in terms of like my percentages, and sometimes I'll use it as a reason to not pause as long as I should. So just being more like
the pause doesn't hurt you as much as it hurts some other lifters, but then you use that as a cope to not pause longer, and it's like the longer you do that, eventually you'll be those other lifters that the pause really fucking nukes their numbers.
Yeah, it's like in a hypertrophy phase, I don't need to be doing a 3 count, but especially when singles
That's
start.
always the worst at local meets when guys are like, the pause doesn't really affect me, so I haven't been training with it. It's like every time they go like 1 for 3, and it's like, what the how did you come to that conclusion?
It's so weird that didn't go as planned.
Or just like back in the day, there was always like some weirdo on Instagram who's like, I'm actually stronger on kilos, so that's why I never use them. And it's like just fucking 1 for 3 artist on the deadlift.
Yeah.
And it's like, your gym has kilos. You're a technical sumo puller. You know deep down you're just clout lifting.
Yeah,
I'm stronger on kilos.
Then
use them.
Just say you're a clout lifter.
If you're stronger on kilos, train on them.
Yeah. And then deadlifts, Operation Rehab, going good, I would say.
Going sick, really good.
We've been making like pretty massive jumps block to block. It's just I was starting at such a low point that like making massive jumps has required 3 blocks in a row of like making progress in order to catch up.
Yeah, but dare I say we'll be probably in a pretty good spot here in about 5 weeks.
So we're getting there. That's how my stuff's going.
Pretty smooth.
Humongous total coming in.
Let's go. Fucking 1,000 kilos, baby. How's my shit going? I think I'm 7 weeks out from trying. Today is my deadlift day. I'm going to try 880. I think I got it. I think I can do it.
What?
880?
Today?
No, I'm 7 weeks out.
Oh, sorry. I completely missed that part. I thought you just said
no, I'm 7 weeks away.
Today's deadlift day.
7 weeks away from training. I've made some small adjustments to my training.
Yep.
My yoke is going really, really well. Like every single week, I'm hitting time PRs. It's just because I've got a good static strength base. And then I'm undertraining the yoke, so I'm enjoying sick newbie gains. It's like if you had a guy with like great general pressing strength who's like, what? I've never bench pressed before.
Yeah.
It's like, he's going to have an insanely prolonged newbie gain phase.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. So I've been getting really good progress on the yoke. That's been fun, kind of filling in a gap in my game. I want to do a 315 or more strict behind the neck press. Just as a bit of a side quest. It's a good lift for keeping my shoulders mobile, keeping my upper back strong, good overhead positions that tend to decay when you just really build a lot of muscle in your front delt. You can kind of lose that upper back strength, that overhead mobility. Just being strong at those is something I'm just going to keep in year round, but usually for reps. Right now I do want to train it for a 1RM, but the big thing is like 7 weeks from now, really would like to pull 880. Made some small adjustments to my training. Such as I'm inverting my volume through the base building phase, right? In our base building phase, we're usually trying to accumulate total volume PRs. It's not about chasing rep PRs. Yep. It's not about chasing heavy weights. It's about building volume in the 60 to 75% range. It varies from athlete to athlete. Ours is 55 to 75, right? Because we need a little bit longer runway at this point. Some athletes, it's like their base phase is like 75 to 85. They just don't back away as far. Like Justin backs down to like 70%, not 55 like we do.
Yeah.
Part of that's technique dependent, right? Like wider stance squatter, sumo guy, big arch, right? Limited range of motion. Usually can take a given percentage for more reps.
Yeah.
We've got pretty big range of motion variations for the most part. Like conventional deadlifters, nothing too weird about the way we squat, like that kind of thing. And Justin dunks him though.
Oh no, I did not mean that as a shot at Justin. I would.
Justin's the man.
That guy's about to squat 800 too.
I know he really is. He's going north of 8 at the American Pro. My client Justin, American Pro, fucking huge total coming. Top 5 all-time squat at 242. I think is coming.
Is he on the amateur day or the pro day?
I want to say he's on the pro day.
Oh.
I think.
He should be.
I'd have to ask him.
He's only up like.
But yeah, I'm doing my base phase on the stiff bar. Just always has a good training effect. If you're a deadlift bar puller, the stiff bar is like the go-to variation. I think it's wicked. It helps fix a lot of deficiencies. But I inverted my volume. right? So historically, maybe I would do 3 sets of more reps to build volume at like 6, let's just call it 6 plates. The problem is, as we always talk about on here, we want to build clean volume, not dirty volume. Building kind of shitty form volume will build you muscle, but it doesn't carry over in the way you would want it to a 1RM.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build as much nice looking volume as we can, partially due to my leverages. I'm perfectly fine at deadlift for reps, but they do shift in positions more than I would like. First rep does not look the same as the 8th rep.
Yeah.
So following that idea, I'm building the volume instead of doing 3 sets of 8, 8 sets of 3. We're just taking the same weight, inverting the volume, and then creating difficulty by limiting the rest times. My rep standardization has gone up. I'm hitting the same total volume. And because I'm not necessarily, sure, you might be missing out on a little bit of hypertrophy, switching it around that way. My erectors are huge. That's not the problem. Erectors are what grow on my deadlift. So I feel like I'm building higher quality volume. And I'm less fatigued, which is sick, because my brace stays better, because I can re-grab my air at the bottom, which is better for me than grabbing air at the top. And when my brace is better, my back takes less of a beating. So far, very good, small change. The structure's the exact same, I just inverted the volume. Same thing, prepped on a sit bar, switched over on strength. And then I switched my back extensions to heavy kettlebell swings, because the back extensions were kind of all erector, and I would really like the point of that exercise slot is to be doing something where I squeeze my glutes. Because, I'm very strong. You're also very strong in the bottom of a hip hinge, because deadlifts and RDLs are a hip hinge, but the most difficult position is deep in the hinge. To be a complete hip hinger, we would also want to be stronger and stronger the further up we get. Yeah. A back extension is a great complementary motion because it's the same pattern. It's a hip hinge, but peak resistance is at the top. That's why some guys, they don't get stronger and stronger the higher the bar gets up in a pull. Yeah. You probably should desire that. Most well-rounded deadlifters are stronger the higher the height they pull from, because they're in a more mechanically advantageous position. But if everything you do is, strength is joint angle specific, if everything is peak difficulty in a stretch position, you're not going to get stronger and stronger as the weight comes up. So doing something where it gets harder at the top of the hinge. So that could be a hip thrust, that could be a back extension. It could be difficulty at the top of a hinge, or it could be something where you squeeze your glutes. Yeah. In which case, a kettlebell swing with a heavy kettlebell swing, it kind of fits that criteria where it's not peak resistance at the top. That's not how that works. It's kind of free flying at the top, but it's a glute squeeze centric exercise. Yeah. And that was kind of a gap in my physicality training. We've got a system for building your chest. We have a system for building your triceps and shoulders. We have a posterior chain system. We have a quad system. It's a simplified bodybuilding routine to just make sure that continues developing. That was a gap in my posterior kind of chain system, is I had my RDLs, and I had hamstring curls. Those two really sped up my pull around the knees. Very simple. But I found that having no glute squeezed type exercise was a real gap in that development of the posterior chain. It's not just bodybuilding, it's about position specific strength sometimes. So I needed something with a glute squeeze, and the back extension was just my erectors were just pumping up, and that was the problem. So we're going to switch that over today and see how that goes. But so far so good. You had a question about the inverted volume before we sign off.
I was just say, was the perceived intensity the same? Did it feel like you were working as hard?
Yeah, so because I limited the rest intervals, it felt like it was a similarly difficult session. Okay. It was just a different format for the difficulty. You know what I mean? Where it was just turn around, minute and a half, go again. Minute and a half, go again. You know what I mean? Because I did doubles. I used the 8x3 because I would think that would be more applicable to the people listening. Right? Is if you're the kind of person that might need 4 work sets on the deadlift, we might do sets of 4 to accumulate that kind of volume. Or if you need 3, I do, same as you, 2 big work sets, and then I also do my RDL volume. So I did doubles. That worked quite well for me. It was 8 doubles, just go, 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 go. Very difficult, different kind of difficulty though, in a good way, because it felt like I was actually doing good technique, which is quite rare when I'm accumulating volume the traditional way.
Quick note for the audience, Sam and I talked about this. If the idea of inverted volume seems really appealing to get out of doing high reps because you're bad at them, probably should be doing high reps.
Yeah, if you need more, if you're the kind of person for whom size does not come easy, you might want to lead into using the deadlift in a more traditional volume, building manner. Whereas if you're someone who maybe needs more neural efficiency, you can just pull heavier. I didn't actually think that through. I don't have a takeaway there.
What's up, guys? We'll be back next week.
Hey, hold backs to it.